And thank you for watching KTN News. Welcome back to Planet Action. Now, the government's initiative of planting 15 billion trees continues to be supported by different non-governmental organizations. Back to Society Organization and the Green Wave Movement together joined hands in planting 600 seedlings in Magani Primary School, Kisai Sub-County, Kitui County. Now, the organizations also donated sanitary towels to girls in the school.
Today we had a program of tree planting in our school. It was a great success. We really appreciate the initiative. This place is dry. We also appreciate the plan that is in place to ensure that we water the trees and that we don't labor in vain.
Ile miti ambayo tumepanda siku ya leo itaweza kunawiri vizuri ili tuwe na nafasi ya kuweza kunyunyizia miti kwa njia ambayo inafaa. Kwa hivyo kwetu kama shule tunasema ya kwamba ni fursa kuu kupata wageni ambao wamekuja kutukumbuka katika upanzi wa miti.
Hii miti itatusaidia sana na ndio mpango wa serikali na tunaendelea na wao wa kupanda miti. Ninafurahi na tumaini ya kwamba ile miti itapandwa hapa itatunzwa ndio iweze kukua, na ningeomba ili ushirika likuje tena kila mwaka tuwe na upanzi wa miti kwa shirika.
So I'll ask our government to go to these areas, do something. We want something that is sustainable, not something that will just take 1 year period to just serve the people because you're trying to sell your manifesto. That's not the case. We need sustainability.
And yes, indeed. We continue with the conversation on the presence of the youth there. Do they have a seat at the table? Are they hard? What in terms of capacity building? And to how this conversation is Shampi Anna. Shampi, while on break we talked about the initiatives we see the government taking place. We commend the government for Africa Climate Summit. We know that came with the Nairobi Declaration, which was pretty much a document for Africa to use in terms of negotiation moving forward. And as we talk about that, we also see that the government has given us, I think, 2 holidays to plant trees. But even while we appreciate the initiatives that are being done, there is always the subject of mitigation and adaptation. We know tree planting is more of mitigation. Is more of mitigation, but more needs to go into what tree works best where. And you were talking to me about what happened in northeastern region, the Madenge tree, and what that has done to societies there. Therefore, just moving forward in terms of being honestly involved, bringing experts to just have conversations around this tree planting, the budgetary allocation. We know there is budgetary allocation for planting trees, but there is no allocation for who will take care of these trees. Therefore, just what do we all need to do for these trees, first of all, to succeed? Because also no one has given us an audit on how many trees we've planted, how many have done well, how many have died, and how we need to bridge that deficit.
I'll start from that point. There is budgetary allocation for planting seedlings, but where is the budgetary allocation for tree caregivers? If you go to an area that rarely has rain, or an area where they're struggling with water, will I bathe, will I cook food, or will I go to water a tree? I must prioritize what helps me to survive. This therefore means, for me, planting trees is good, but it should be planting trees and more. And I like I think there was something we were watching here on the concept of planting fruit trees and planting, trees that are, resistant even to drought. There needs to be more research on what could be the possible negative effects of these trees if they are going to be drought resistant, as they say, on this area, so that we don't have the Madenge situation. And also, too, how do we ensure that we don't just plant trees, but we grow trees? That should be the actual conversation. And in fact, even more education on what trees needs to be there, and in fact what adaptation measures needs to be there to build community resilience. Most of the money or most of the allocation when it comes to environmental mitigation crisis is going to planting trees, but we want to see more going into projects that will be in the community to build resilience. We know in the ASAL regions, if there is drought, it is on the extreme drought. People die, animals die, people get misplaced. When there's floods, it is also, when there's rain, it's also extreme. It's flooding everywhere. We know these things. But if this is inevitable, this therefore means that perhaps we don't need trees. Maybe we need to invest more in trenches. Okay, trees, and alongside trees, we have to have trenches that ensure that there's proper drainage. Perhaps even, beyond just planting trees when there's drought, how do people cope so that we ensure even the animals don't eat those trees and finish them if they're going to be fruit trees? And we want to tell the government that the youth are here to help. We are energetic, we are jobless. Okay, most of us are really struggling to get jobs or even decent jobs out here. And we want to help them implement these programs. Why don't they involve us? Because we don't expect them to go everywhere and do these things. Even those things like tree planting. If my ultimate solution, by the way, is education and capacity building, giving these people skills. And they will be surprised at how much manpower people are willing to volunteer for themselves, because this is where they live, this is their community. They want to have a better life. And I keep on saying this, we really do deserve a better life. And it is in the interest of government or in the interest of any other partner or party that is involved to want to involve the youth, because we are energetic, booming with ideas, and we are ready to help. Isi kama ile kitambo, some of them sometimes have this view that sisi ni watu wa fujo, sijui nini. I think if there's anything that this Gen Z movement has brought out is that we are clear on, having things that have moral grounds, people fulfilling their promises, resources going to where they're supposed to be going to, and just us all having a good life. We all deserve a good life.
You're saying we all deserve a good life. We are all passenger princesses in this
We are all passenger princesses.
And therefore, as we move forward, there is now the aspect of the youth equally coming out strong and demanding for their space pretty much in this entire conversation on climate change. We know initiatives like the summer school by Pakja is one of the initiatives that are actually is being talked about not only in Kenya, because I know of an alumni from Nigeria, another one from Namibia, who have all come to this summer school and are taking this message back home. Therefore, in terms of just the youth in this country, there is you, there is Paul, and many others who have gone through this system. How do we then consolidate what it is we have to form this movement that will call for change, that will knock in these doors, call up the cabinet secretary, the PS, and everybody involved in matters environment to ensure that the youth are heard, the ideas are picked, and that together we move forward?
There's two things. One, it is the individual will of us. We are the youth. What do we want? To be involved. And if truly this is what we want to be involved, it also comes down to us. The responsibility ultimately lies with us. Where are these important conversations happening? Are we able to access these points? If we are not able, what is barring us from accessing these points? And I like that there is so much strength in our numbers, that the moment we all decide to come together concerning this topic and just work in unison, no gatekeeping, no nothing, because this space also has its own politics. There are youth that have been there before, there are others coming in, others exiting. If unity can be achieved, and not just in Kenya, because climate change, it is a cross-border issue, that even as much as we're trying to unite the youth of Kenya, it is in our interest to unite even the youth of Africa and demand for action to be done by our respective governments and even Africa as a whole when we're coming together. So unity is a really crucial aspect, and just us pushing to be there on the table and to want to be involved and to show our potential and capability. That's one. Two, I'll still go back to my point. Education and capacity building. There's no way even the government or any department of the government or any parastatal can say we want to involve the youth, we are calling for inclusivity with the youth, but they're not doing what is necessary for the youth to want to be involved. Especially the indigenous youth are usually left behind. Who is going to teach them these things? Some of us are lucky, maybe we've been here in Nairobi, we've had a chance to participate in some 1-2 conversations and had a chance to learn something, but who is teaching these people? And it just takes that. You teach one, it's like you've taught a whole community, because we are going to deep inside the community and continue to teach them, which is also a work that I do. I work for, I run programs for an CBO called Northern Vision. And for me, we just sat with my friend. Her name is Zamzam Bonaya Boru. She's the founder of Northern Vision. We sat and we were just telling each other with Zamzam, as we've come to school here in Nairobi, things seem to be going well. But what about other fellow youth who didn't get the chance, to come to this area? What's the best thing that we can do? We went back home. Whatever knowledge I got from the third cohort of summer school, I took home, and I still continue to take home to the children, to my fellow youth, even to the women and the men that are there. We have conversations we call healing circles. We have these hard conversations where we heal the community, we plant trees for bonding, and even after we've planted, that's just an activity to bring us together. But in those healing circles, we educate them on what we've learned, and we also learn so much from them because there's so much indigenous knowledge on the ground. These people have had experience. Mababu zetu walikuwa wanapitia almost similar conditions, but what did they used to do in order for them to be, in order for them to persevere these harsh conditions? They have the knowledge, and if only they could be brought to the table to be heard. Some of them have not even gone to school, but they do also have solutions to also be involved. That when we are ticking boxes, we ensure that everyone, first of all, there's equity in representation, and everyone's voice has been heard, everyone is contributing meaningfully.
And moving forward, now, say, the next few months, around 4 or 5 months before everyone packs their bags, JKIA, jets heading to Baku, there is the conversation on technology that needs to be used in fighting climate change, because with technology, we get to know how to move. So there is the subject of solar technology that pretty much Africa has the resources. We mine here, but they're being manufactured outside. So how do we ensure that that technology is retained in Africa or is shared with Africa so that they're able to move forward? We talk about electric cars, smart agriculture, and also just being able to understand the weather. These are areas that the youth can easily tap into. And we know they are resource heavy when it comes to just setting these initiatives in place. Therefore, how do we make sure that even as we go to Baku, that these are our arsenal as we go out there, as the youth of Africa, this is what we want. These are our demands, that even as we come here, even as we are observers, we shall find a way. We are creative. We can find a way of getting our demands to those tables. So how do we go about it?
So when it comes to, okay, I do have faith that the conference.
Faith is a good.
Yeah, it's a good. I have faith, and hope is something I constantly carry with me. And for me, the concept of climate justice ultimately is what should be prioritized. That even as first of all, when you're looking at anything to do with technology, youth itself can just come already into your mind, because most of the youth are the ones that understand what there is to do with technology, how best it can be implemented. And so when we're looking at such a situation of bringing in technology, then concepts like just transition is what we should be talking about, especially here in Africa, because majority of the global north, they have already sorted out their problems and technology seems to be working fine for them. So technology is like now coming into Africa. It's now going to be like the in thing. And in the process, many people could lose jobs. In the process, many could be displaced, because we have seen this, that solar farms are being installed and people that were living there have been displaced, climate refugees who are even yet to be recognized by now. What happens to those people? Even in Turkana, we're facing the same issue, that the community itself has not fully benefited from the
windmill.
Yes, that have been installed. Therefore, our focus, not just as the youth of Africa, but the whole of Africa, and even as our position in Kenya, our ultimate goal should be to achieve everything that we do. It should be just transition. If we are going to be replacing renewable energy all over, where do these people who have jobs depending on it go? And if we consider very many aspects. We also need to consider cultural aspects. There are people that are practicing, things like traditional pastoralism. And for others, it just feels as simple as you guys could just abandon it and just move into some kind of mixed system that maybe but they fail to understand that there's a cultural aspect that comes with this thing. This thing is invaluable. It's more than And it has a cultural significance. It is part of the culture. And this is just one small example of the kind of adapting technology we're looking at in Africa, and not just in Kenya. So as we're heading to Baku, and as always, as far as climate justice is concerned, just transition should be our biggest priority, that no one gets left behind, even as we're trying to adapt these new technologies to help us. They should not cause more suffering, that we start saying that we were better off without them.
And Shampi, I want you to look straight into your camera right there. And I want you to talk to the youth of this world, the youth of this country, on how matters to do with climate change is important to them to participate in 2 minutes.
In the words of Honorable Peter Salasia, we are doomed, we are doomed, we are doomed. My youth, hapa ni sisi kujitegemea, for sure, for sure. Kuna institutions mingi pale nje, and the best thing about the time that we are living in, we are only a click away from information. If you are sitting there and you would like to know more information on what climate change is, you're only a click away. We have so much information going on the internet, and even the organizations that are involved in such kinds of works, you can reach out to them. And even me and other fellow people who are really contributing. If I say that we are on our own, it's not to mean that we are helpless, but rather it is up to us to help ourselves, and there is so much strength in our numbers, and unity is our biggest tool.
We are doomed, but all is not lost. With all the information that we have, we're just a click away from making decisions that will not only benefit us, but even the generation that will come before us. We know with the conversations around the Gen Z in the country, all they ask for is matters to do with accountability and being involved equally. As Shampi has said, all they seek for is a seat at that table, being able to make decisions that will positively bring matters to do with climate change, including advising the authority that is there. It is more about adaptation and not mitigation. It is about training, it is about capacity building, making sure that this information gets to each and every person in this country and the world at large. Technology remains to be an important aspect on how to deal with climate change. Therefore, all of us with the technology that is there, she talks about just transition, big words being spilled out here. And even as we plan to go to Baku, it is only our hope that the youth will be given a seat at the table, and they will be heard, and all that they have to offer will be implemented. And as the youth are now saying, anguka na, anguka nayo. So as we anguka nayo in making sure that there is climate justice, we say you at home, keep being green, keep being the ambassador of this place we call home. My name is Dennis Aseto. My guest has been Shampi Anna. And this is Planet Action. Keep being green. Good evening.